All right, Marion. Hi, Dad. How are you? Tonight I have a special treat. I have Kristen here. Kristen Block. She is an artist, and she is one of the brightest people on the internet, and one of the most fascinating people at the internet. And so I'm gonna say hello to you guys so we can get her on stage. I will say that I'm gonna let her tell her story. I'm gonna start some questions and please ask questions. She's ready for you. She wants you to ask questions. And then we will start answering the questions. Or if she sees a question come up and she wants to answer it right then, that's cool too. Whatever she wants to do, she runs the show. I'm just here to hear. Let's see who's here. Lee. Lee takes the trash and the chocolate out, puts out a variety of single foods and snacks, soft drinks, and various waters on the table. Put some Oreo cookies in milk with white dark and milk chocolate, fountain pretzels, marshmallows, and fruit. Welcome to Diamond Honey Miss Inn indeed. Tammy, help yourself, come on in, grab a snack, and hit the like button on the bottom of your seat. Thank you, Lee. I can always do this data with no Oreos. I just can't. Hi, Nut. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And then we got um Kristen here. I always want to call her the Glitchy Glitch, and she got a name, Dad. She does. No, Kristen. Okay. Hi, Helen. Thank you for being here. And Kathy, thank you. Mr. Rich is here. What you doing, Mr. Rich? I don't know why I call him Mr. Rich. I'm kind of crazy. Make me think of Mr. Ed. Hi, Linda. Thank you for being here. Doretta. Oh, Doretta's gonna with me. Doretta, I swear I got you right here. I'm gonna call you, I really am. Hi, Eve. How are you? And Elisa. Hi, Elisa. Thank you for being here. Oh, let's see. We got Carol, Glitter Angel. Thank you, Dad. Thank you all for being here. Now, um, I did. I definitely go ahead and get started if Christian's ready. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready. Are you ready? Okay. You guys ready for Christian? I am. Like I said, ask any question you want to ask. I will start it, we will start it, somebody will start it, and then we'll ask the questions when Kristen's ready to answer them. So, okay, shoot your tongue, guys.
Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Welcome
Kristen.
back to Whiskey Witch Nation Clubhouse. I'm back again.
Thank you for being here. I was telling, I find you so fascinating. I do. You're the most fascinating person I've met in a long, long time.
I appreciate that.
I mean, we'll be talking and she said, "Oh yeah, I used to be an actor," and I'm like, "Yeah, you did what?" And then she said, "Oh yeah, I read, I what was horses," and I'm like, "You what?" And she's like, "I'm the dog. I breed dogs," and then she just kept going on and on and on. I'm like, "What don't you do? That'd be easier to tell me." Hi, Anna. Thank you for being here. So, Kristen, how are you?
I am doing good. It's been a busy day of doing my regular job, which is canine reproduction. But I came on here to tell my real story today because I know that I've been on with Rich and I've been on with Elisa Maria, but the personal stuff was all saved for Tammy. And I will start with a bad story, and it might trigger some of you, but I hope at the end that maybe if you are in a situation that's similar or have been, that maybe I can show you that there is light at the end of a really bad tunnel that you feel like you never ever could have gotten out of. Um, so I will just jump right in. Um, I've done my crying years ago, so I'm not going to cry now. Back in November, right before Thanksgiving in 2004, my husband at the time tried to kill me. Um, we didn't have a fight, nothing. My husband was a really bad alcoholic. And I think you probably all figure, like, oh my God, but you're the whiskey witch and you've got all this bourbon. Well, there's a difference between alcoholism, which is a disease, and being a wine sommelier or a bourbon steward or whatever. People can responsibly enjoy alcohol. Um, even though this happened to me, I got into the bourbon thing a few years back. We can discuss that if anybody's at all curious about Whiskey Witch Nation or my barrel picks or anything like that. We can discuss that either now or at a different time. But back in November, late November, right, like literally right before Thanksgiving, um, my husband was in an office. God knows how late he was up. And he was literally at this time, he was drinking like a bottle of Crown whiskey and drinking like a 12 pack of Budweiser a day. And he was a NASCAR dude. Okay. So the NASCAR stuff actually comes before this because I quit NASCAR in 2000 and this happened in 2024. But he was still working in NASCAR. He was still on the road. He was a car chief. He was a tire changer. And what happened is I quit and we got this farm and we raised racing greyhounds and I worked like a dog, to be honest with you. And I'd gone to bed, I was asleep. And for whatever reason, he chose to come in the bedroom, drag me by my hair out of the bedroom from one end of the house to the other, choking me until I thought I was going to die. And all I did at that moment, thinking I was going to die, I remember just staring into his eyes like almost like daring him, are you really going to do this to me? You know, you're supposed to be the one person on this planet, your husband or your father, the one person that's supposed to protect you over anybody else in the world. And you're literally trying to kill me. So I thought it was over and it wasn't. He got me, dragged me back across the house, dragged me into our foyer, and kind of let up for a minute. And I kind of pushed him away from me. Well, that was obviously in his eyes. And this was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I had pajamas on. And this was back in dial up phone era. Okay. We lived in the country. We had only dial up. So, you know what happens if somebody gets on your phone, you can't dial up. And this is back when cell phones also had the batteries in them. So just keep that in mind. So the one final blow was in the foyer. He re-grabbed a hold of me and he took me by the head. And I was at a corner of a wall and he just repeatedly smashed my head, boom, 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 into the wall and shattered my face. So my whole skull was bruised. I'm missing this eye socket. I had to learn to basically speak again. I was like drooling and everything because this whole part of my face right here, I can't feel any of this. It's completely numb. Okay. Just completely numb. So I ran outside. It was late November, even though this is North Carolina, it was still cold and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I really didn't know what to do. I tried to call 911. He had logged onto the computer. He like got lucid enough to do that. Went to grab my cell phone and it was like the flip phones with the battery on the back, like the old Motorola's. He grabbed the batteries out of them. I couldn't do anything. Literally couldn't do anything. So he had gone and like locked himself in a guest room and I was out there freezing. And I came back in And I don't know why I didn't call the police, but I didn't. And I think a lot of victims of things like this, like, you're like, it's not going to happen again. And he had handwritten this contract basically before this. And it was all handwritten, is long. It said I would never divorce him under any circumstances, no matter what. I would never, ever, ever leave him. I would never divorce him. And it was like I was coerced into it. And I was really miserable. And I remember even thinking, like, when he would leave to go to the track, this is a terrible thing to say, but like praying, like, oh, let him go out on pit road and let a car hit him. Like, I would literally think that. It was terrible. But I had a right to, kind of. He just, like, it was escalating. Like, alcohol, like, he turned into this monster that you didn't even recognize anymore. And he was starting to really actually get a reputation in NASCAR of being like an alcoholic, like someone you couldn't trust on a team that would, like, just, pick up their toolbox and like leave in the middle of the season or whatever. But he was really good at his job. And when this happened, he had gotten onto a team that he had gotten back in with. Believe it or not, there are bad crowds in NASCAR. And he had gotten back in with some of these guys that were like the bad crowd. And they were like absolute falling down drunks too. And I think he was doing probably more than alcohol. But it got to the point where if I knew he was coming home, I would like go in my room, was formerly our room, my room, and I would take a chair and put it under the door, the door handle so he couldn't get in. And I do have like French doors out of like the entire back of the house. So I did have like an escape route out of my room. But things got real strange. And about a month later, he like called me, like he was just out, like who knows what he was out doing. He was always like out now. And I got scared. He called me, like, and he acted like he was going to do this all over again. And I'm going to backtrack just a hair, but when your face is shattered, I don't know if anyone has had pain or been in a car wreck, or it's even like when I wrecked on my horse. That's a whole nother story too. I broke my back a couple years ago. You ever get that pain where it's like a flash of white? Like you just see pure white because the pain is so intense and it's so hot. And that's what my face felt like. So you have all of these muscles in your face that you don't even realize are there until your face has been seriously injured. And I could barely eat. Like it was like soup. I mean, it was like my face, you just make the wrong move and it was like boom, lightning, white hot pain. So about a month later, he scared me again. So this time I called my neighbor across the street and his wife. And he said, I'm coming to get you. We're going to the magistrate's office. And it was about 11 o'clock at night. And he took me to our county's magistrate's office. I did have some pictures of me after I'd gotten beaten up, and he grabbed him, drove me down there, and it was like minutes. And like three squad cars were like looking for Travis. He was out and we're going to arrest him. And I said, I think he's drunk, and I think you can probably get him on a DUI if you can catch him on the street. Unfortunately, they didn't catch him until he was in the driveway, but they did arrest him on the spot and they did take him off to jail. So, at the magistrate's office, I got a 50B against him, which was it was a temporary it was a temporary restraining order. And I'll tell you, if you've never been to criminal court, it's not a fun place to be because it's filled with angry people. Um, many people in a situation like me, violent criminals, their families, people that want or against them. I mean, it's just a bad place to be. It's not like traffic court. It's bad court. It's bad, bad court. And I had to go in there and it was the state versus him. And I had to like relive it all. And he had his mother come from out of state. Like that was going to do anything to change the judge's mind. But yeah, he was sentenced. My 50B got extended. I think my restraining, it ended up getting extended and extended and extended. I think it lasted like 5 years. He did move out of state finally. I don't even know how, why, if he ever got fired. I'm not really certain. He did have to not only serve time, but he had to have 18 months of special supervised probation. And if you know what that means checking in with a parole officer on a weekly basis. He wasn't allowed to leave. He wasn't allowed to have a firearm. They did confiscate all of his guns. He did have guns. Um, I did, thankfully, I grabbed my own and I hid them in my room. The cops didn't take those, but I mean, in this state, I probably had every right to kill him, but I didn't. And I'm really glad I didn't because then I'd have to live with that because he's got to live the rest of his life knowing what he did to me. And after this happened, you would think, something really bad happens to like one of your friends, I'm going to be there. But what I found out is that nobody was there. Nobody was there for me. Um, it was like you caught the bubonic plague. It was like every friend couple you had didn't want to speak to you because then that meant that could happen to them. And they didn't want to be around it. But I did have some people that I didn't even consider to be really friends that came out of the woodwork and brought me food and checked on me and things like that. But because my parents lived so far away, they were not able to be here with me. So I went through this like alone, 100% alone on this farm with nobody to talk to really. It it was bad. But I did have a friend of mine who also worked in NASCAR. And I found out through the grapevine she had been beat by her husband and was trying to get out, but she couldn't. So we arranged to have her move in with me. And I hid her for a year. Um, he had no idea. He it was like we were acquaintances at the track, but I was literally probably one of the last people on the planet he would have thought to go looking for. And believe me, she was scared to death. So together we started going to CVAN, which was a domestic women's violence shelter program, and going to the meetings. And they were like, you had to call ahead of time. You didn't ever give out the address. If anyone's ever been to those kind of things, they know it's like a kind of a secret location. There's like you got to ring doorbell. Everything's always locked up. That kind of thing. It's in a house. There's no like outside markers knowing it's a domestic violence shelter. But I went to some meetings and it was, everyone told their stories. But after about 3 meetings, what I started to realize, some of these women had been going there for a long time, like a year, and they were still a victim. And I was like, man, I don't want to be a victim. Like, I really, I don't want to be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Oh my God. Oh my, I'm like, no, don't feel sorry for me because honestly, had he not done what he did to me, I never would be the person I am today. And when I met him, I was already getting ready to get out of NASCAR. I'd already driven race cars. I had like put in my time at the track. I mean, my parents worked in Indy cars. I mean, you know, I had ethanol running through my veins. I mean, racing was life. And, I was on the road every single race. You live out of a suitcase. Flying private is great. Helicopters are great. But when you've got to spend that much time away from your family and your friends and your animals all that time, it's just a convenience. It just gets you home a little bit faster. That's all it is. So it's not like, oh, I used to fly private every weekend. No, it's just my method of transportation to get me to my job and back. But I refused to be a victim. And I started to see these women as like, they just wanted to be victims. So I had my neighbor, I said, listen, he's gone now, right? He can't come back. I got a restraining order against him. We still had to go through a big divorce. And I didn't know what my finances were. I didn't know if I owed money. I didn't know if I had any credit. I didn't know anything. Well, come to find out, he had put all of the debt in his name and I didn't have any, but I was on the mortgage. So I was accruing credit all the time. So it actually, in the end, worked out good for me. And he was so restrictive. Like, he would, all the race dogs had to be in his name. Everything had to be in his name. It was always me, mine, mine, mine. And I just, I got beyond it. You know, my face was broken. I will forever know what he did because I can't feel my face. You know, it's numb. It's like it's like my face is like literally paralyzed on this side of my face. But nobody really knew in NASCAR. Not too many people knew what he did because he did a really good job of hiding it. And I used to be real good friends with Kyle Petty. In fact, every Friday night back in the day when we were on the road, it was Kyle and I, we were going out for Mexican. Anybody wanted to join us, they're welcome to come. Kyle, of all people, is the one that introduced me to this SOB. Thought he was great. I didn't pay much attention to the little guy, to be honest with you, because he was on the team. He was just, at that point, he was a tire specialist, you know, low man on the totem pole. And he just started hanging around a lot. And then he would come up to me shyly at the track, said, "Hey, Kristen, hi. You know, do you think you could help and get me some pictures for my mom?" And I'd be like, "Okay." And then it turned into, "Oh, Kristen, would you like to go to a movie with me?" And I'd be like, "Okay." And that's how that all started. But I ran into Kyle after it had happened. And it was actually a couple years had gone by. And I was retired by then. And Kyle was horrified. I mean, he's like my best driver friend. If I had a NASCAR driver, you know, like I say, I have my gay husband, I have my NASCAR driver husband, Kyle would be it. Because we were just like, we were buddies. And, you know, word really started to get out about what he did. And he ended up out of racing. I'm not even sure if I know he filed bankruptcy. Um, Not sure if he owns a home. I know he got remarried. But that's about all I know. Um, but it was hard. And I would remember days, you know, the dogs kept me going because they had to be taken care of. You know, these were racing animals. And they really kept me going and the work kept me going. But there would be days where I would just like be outside and just start sobbing. And I was just, I felt so incredibly alone. And I got real hardened because I felt like nobody was there for me. And I swore I was never going to let anybody in ever again, that I was on my own and that's how it was going to stay. And, and then I had to have surgery in 2005 in September. And was kind of co-running it with a guy, a racing kennel down in West Palm Beach, Florida. And my trainer was supposed to come up while I had my surgery and help and basically run the farm because I was going to have an 8-week recovery. And I couldn't lift anything. And I definitely couldn't be dealing with big old greyhounds, especially not about 100 of them. He couldn't make it. So a friend of his he went to high school with was a friend of mine as well. Well, he couldn't make it. Well, then they said, "Hey, there's this other guy that trains greyhounds that we both went to high school with, and his name is Brett." And he said, "Believe it or not, Brett is out of a job right now. He got into a argument with his kennel owner, and Brett didn't like the way the kennel operator was feeding the dogs, and he wanted to feed them better, and he quit." So they said, "We're going to send Brett." Well, that was 2005. 2025. Brett's still here, and we've been married for almost 3 years. We've been together since 2005, and we've been married for, like I said, going on 3 years. I didn't want to get married. He knew I didn't want to get married. And my dad said, "You're getting married." And I screamed and I kicked. And I mean, I'm talking, I'm a 50-something-year-old woman, and I'm crying and screaming, saying, "No, I'm not getting married. Not going down that road again. Not doing it." My dad said, "You're getting married. I don't want to hear another thing about it." So we got married. And it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, because Brett is one of the best people on the planet. There's not, he would, he wouldn't hurt anything on purpose at all. Um, and I give Brett a lot of credit for putting up with my hard exterior, because sometimes I think that I've been so broken that, he's dealing with a broken person, and it's hard for him, because I felt like for a long time I was incapable of like showing love back to anybody else, if that makes any sense to anybody. Um and he's just a good person, and I've got a good husband, and I got a good husband that cares about me. But unfortunately, he's got to deal with the bird with the broken wings that will never completely heal all the way. Um but I encourage you, if you are in a situation where you are afraid, it is hard. I'm not going to lie and say, "Oh, it was an easy decision." He made the decision for me. But I would implore to any of you out there that may be in this situation, don't wait to get into the situation I got in. Don't wait that long. And there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you don't have to be a victim. You can rise above it. You can rise out of the ashes and be the strong ass woman that I truly believe I am today. I don't take anything from anybody anymore. I'm tough as nails. I don't necessarily like being that way anymore, but it's how I am now. I got the shell on, and the shell's probably never going to come off. But if you're in that situation, go to a meeting at your local shelter. Nobody has to know you went, and talk to some people. And there are a lot of shelters that will help you get out and house you until you can figure things out. Not everybody maybe had a business that they could rely on, or even a home that they could rely on. But I did, and I'm very grateful for that. My parents provided for me very well and helped me from afar get through this. I know it broke their heart that they were so far away when this happened. Um, but again, the people that you think will be there for you, a lot of times they're not. It definitely reshaped who I called friend, put it that way. So if anybody has any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we can jump into. I mean, I don't have any more trigger things. I mean, I think what I said was graphic enough. Y'all get it. I've been 25 years later, I'm still, the injury's permanent. It's never going to go away. I mean, my eye is never going to change shape. You know, uh, I'm never going to forget being in criminal court. You know, um, it was horrible. That's all I can say. It was horrible.
I had two first cousins on both sides of my family, and unfortunately, they suffered severe substance abuse. And so, you know, I don't understand how you feel, but I know what they went through. So
Hard.
yeah, it does, and it never leaves you. You know, you may learn to. I'm not going to say overcome it, but learn to not let it get the death of you. But it's always there at some point. At at least it is for them, you know. So I'm sorry you went through that, but I'm
But
grateful.
I wouldn't be where I am today had it
Right.
not happened. I would have been repressed. I'd probably still be with him. You know, he was so controlling that um you know, he was a good worker. There was great things about him. But alcohol completely destroyed him. And
Hmm.
it's just, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, it all goes hand in hand. Um but I probably wouldn't have this farm built the way it was if it hadn't been for him. So for that, I'm grateful um that he built this great farm. But you know and unfortunately for what he did to me, he basically he he had nothing when he left. He had literally nothing. And I mean, that's karma. I do believe in karma. And what you put out, you get back three times three. If you put bad out, you're going to get it back. If you put good out, you're going to get it back. And he
Yeah.
put bad out, and it's probably plagued him for up until now.
Yep. And I believe in that. I believe in karma. I do. And I do believe that people can change if they want to. Um, but unfortunately, some people do not. But the way that you took your situation and turned it around is that inspired me because you're right. I always say we have to go through the bad sometimes to get to the good. I
Yep.
mean, you just have to.
Yep.
There's no other way around that. I had to, you had to, a lot of us had to. But, and I've always said that every decision I've ever made had led me to this very moment right here talking to you. So, um, I'm happy that things turned around for you in
Yeah. I
that.
mean, I do suffer from PTSD. I mean, which is,
Mhm.
I would think everybody would think that's a given. And
Right.
I do suffer from panic disorder as well now. Um, but that is, managed by my medical doctor. The nightmares and things, the PTSD stuff, it's not like it was. I mean, there's definitely days where, I might have a complete breakdown. Um, but, you know, whenever anybody's ever had like a near death experience or and been brutally beaten up or whatever, you're going to have, or been in the military and seen things. I mean, that's almost a given. You're going to have some level of PTSD. Um, but you know, I don't wear that as like a crutch that I say, oh, well, there are some people that will say, well, I have this mental health issue, so you got to give me a pass on my behavior. Um, I don't I don't get a pass on behavior because of PTSD. If I behave badly, I behave badly, and I should be told I'm behaving badly. It's not a like, oh, Kristen's got PTSD and she just lashed out at you, so you got to forgive her because she's got PTSD. No, that's not how it works. We all go on our mental health journey on our own, and there is really no excuse for mistreating other people because of a mental illness. To be honest with you, that's how I feel about it. Um, I will say, jumping way forward, diamond painting has definitely helped with panic disorder and things like that. It's very soothing. Um, so, anyway, I know we're already 30 some minutes in. We can jump right into this subject if you want.
That was my next question. Yep, I wanted to know how in the world you got to Well, you didn't. Look at that picture, Dad. Can you believe that? That's a real helmet, by the way. That's
Yeah, it sure is.
a real
It's
helmet.
it's
That's
mic'd up and everything. Yeah, this is my old helmet. Did it off. I showed it to Jeanette the other day, and I said, "There's something really weird about the colors pink, purple, and lime green." And I didn't even realize at all. But here's my jockey silks, and what color are they? Pink, purple, and lime green. And I subconsciously must be attracted to those colors because I didn't even know that I was picking my helmet colors for my jockey silks. But if anybody has any NASCAR questions, so I worked in NASCAR from about 1989, 90 to 2000 is when I was my last full year. So if anybody has any questions about anybody driving back then, what it was like to be behind the scenes, um, ask away. Um, that was the next topic of conversation. So I could just ramble endlessly about anybody you want. I mean, like Dale Earnhardt. If anyone's interested in him, I could tell you Dale Earnhardt stories. That now is your time to talk to somebody that went to every single NASCAR race for well over a decade, and basically I can tell you almost anything. So if anybody's interested, go ahead, ask.
right. Before we did that, I do want to read a couple of comments that was said. Jeanette said, "This is terrifying. My heart breaks to you." That was earlier. And then she said, "Christian told me earlier this week that if you're in a bad situation, you can take your towel back and stand up so you're right. Call and visit a shelter and get help." And then Rich said, "I wish more people will not use mental health as an excuse to to not act appropriately." And that is true. And that I thank you. And I think that your story's gonna help a lot of people. I really do. Because, and I'm trying to get my cousin to tell her story. Because unfortunately it's doing that the same way that she got out too. Um, but thank you for being brave and telling that. I really am. I thank
Yeah,
you.
and I'm not going to lie. I mean, in the very beginning, did I have thoughts of unaliving myself? Of course. I think a lot of people do. But,
Yeah,
I didn't, it was thoughts. It didn't go any further than thoughts, obviously. Um, but, it was just you're hurt so bad by the person that's supposed to be protecting you. Um, your whole life feels like it's closing in on you.
yeah, it does. Well, I mean, I don't know that personally, but I know from what she said. But the fact that you had the NASCAR, to kind of drive you, to have something to look forward to, that did too, because you did have other things in your life doing for you. That had I can't believe that you knew Dale Earnhardt and Kyle Petty. That
Um,
blows my
I
mind.
know everybody. I know everybody. I mean, so I used to do some work for DEI. I'll tell you one couple little short stories. So Dale was a big old teddy bear. They called him Ironhead and everything. He was a very sweet man. And there was one track I hated going to, and it was Pocono. I absolutely hated Pocono. And so Chocolate Myers, who used to be Dale Earnhardt's gas man, and his wife Karen, I was actually the maid of honor in their wedding, along with Andy Petrie, who was Dale Earnhardt's crew chief. And Chocolate would just go hand Karen and I each, a couple $100 bills to tell us to go off shopping. Um, but we had, when we were at DEI, it was the one car, and Steve Parks was driving our car. and Steve Parks had gotten in that really bizarre accident. It was like on a caution lap, and he got hurt on a caution lap. So Daryl Waltrip came out of retirement and got in the one car for the rest of the season. So it was like, oh God, now I got to deal with Jaws on top of Ironhead, right? So we had it was Daryl's last race for us, and it was Pocono, and I was like, oh, and they're like, you gotta go. I was like, oh. So Teresa Earnhardt and I took their Citation jet and flew up to Pocono. And I was like, oh God, I gotta be in a plane alone with Teresa. Oh. I was a little freaked out about that. I was like, maybe she's gonna be nice, maybe she could be really mean, but I'm gonna be really quiet. I'm gonna be really scared of her. We get on the plane, she's like, hey, you ready? You want a drink? She pulls out a big old bottle of Jack, pours us both a drink. By the time we landed in Pocono, Teresa and I were feeling no pain. And we got shuttled on over to the Daryl. And Teresa and I just had a great old time. She is just a good old girl. There was nothing ever scary about her. I actually really enjoyed my solitary plane ride with Teresa Earnhardt. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, I mean, at one time, one of my big stories was I was one of the only people to ever go to the Indy 500 and the Coke 600 in Charlotte on the same day. So I got pictures of me. I got in an airplane all by myself, two pilots and me, at about 3 o'clock in the morning. I flew to Indianapolis. I helicoptered into right outside the speedway, got on a golf cart, got shuttled in, spent the day at Indy, got back on a helicopter, got back on a plane, landed in Concord Regional, got back on another helicopter, Robbie Gordon and and got plopped right outside the tunnel outside of turn 4 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And Robbie forgot his helmet. So I was like running in with Robbie's helmet. But that was a unique experience. Being in Indianapolis for a long race and then the Coke 600, which is 600-mile race. And I will admit, I fell asleep on a pile of tires on pit road, probably halfway through the Coke 600 because I was exhausted. Um, but so there's some other people. Vince Neil from Motley Crue. He used to Vince Neil.
You knew the nil. See, I
Yeah, yeah. Let's not think I like Vince Neil. Let's just say I know Vince Neil.
okay.
So he had a team. It was called Pig Racing. P period I period G period racing. And he had an Indy Lights car. He had money. He could afford a ride. Well, him and his little whatever, we'd be at the racetrack. Everyone's hanging out. It's hot out. This is on the IndyCar circuit. There goes Vince Neil rolling up with his crew, 95 degrees out. They're walking around with their long hair, their black leather jackets, their, motorcycle boots on, chains hanging off of them, looking like a bunch of idiots walking around a racetrack like they're backstage at a Motley Crue show. So I know none of us really had much respect for Vince Neil back then. No, he was not a good race car driver. He pretty much sucked.
Yeah. Well, so okay. Exactly. You didn't drive. I mean, you did drive
Oh yeah,
the dark
but
car that you
no,
nothing.
I did not. I drove stock cars a little bit. No, this. I drove open wheel cars.
A dark car.
So there's a series with IndyCar. So you think of what the cars are in the Indianapolis 500,
Right.
and they have series below them that the cars look very almost identical, but it's kind of like in stock car racing. you have the Cup Series and you have the Infinity Series, and the
Mhm.
cars look almost identical. It's just there might be down on power or whatever,
Right.
lighter or down on power or whatever. So I actually also for SCCA Pro Series. I'm also IMSA. I was an IMSA licensed driver. So for the like the prototype type cars, and I also taught for the SCCA, which is Sports Car Club of America. I taught the Atlantic and the Continental, which are their, we call them like the Toyota Atlantic series, it was called back then. But I actually taught racing school at Rockingham Motor Speedway.
That's cool. I didn't know that either.
Oh, well, yeah. And I mean, you do meet a lot of celebrities in racing. I mean, you go out to like Fontana to like near LA, and of course there's all sorts of celebrities walking around, and it does become pretty commonplace. I mean, the coolest person I ever got near obviously was one of the presidents of the United States. That was George Bush. Um, a lot of country music superstars have, go to the track. Of course, Kid Rock, also known as, we called him Bobby.
I
One
love
of
to.
my besties in racing was Tony Stewart, and Tony Stewart actually owned race dogs as well. So we were close because of the race dogs, as well as the cars. Um, yeah, I mean, but Kyle Petty was definitely my bestie. I mean, I know if I called him up today and I needed something, he'd be there for me. That's how I feel.
That.
I really truly believe that.
So when you say you taught race racing school, how do you do that? I mean, how do you teach racing?
Um,
Give me an idea.
well,
I can't.
I mean, you've got to learn like in those cars back then. I mean, now you look at all the Formula One cars and there's all these buttons on the steering wheel and they're paddle shifting or they're using a button or whatever. Well, back then you had to your pedals on your for your car were so small. So you'd
Mhm.
have your gas, your clutch, your brake. And what you would do is you had to learn to what we call blip the throttle. So you do a motion like it'd be called heel and toe. So you would raise the RPMs in your car as you downshifted, and that's where that noise comes from when you hear cars slowing down into a turn, and then
Right.
you hear the high pitched squeal when you stand on the gas and you're just shifting really quick. Um, so a lot of these people that I would teach would come in like with their own cars, and they needed to get licensed with the SCCA, so they had to put in so much time of education to be able to legally race. So that was pretty much what I did. You had your chalk talk where you'd have, whiteboard and you'd talk with them, and then they'd go out and you'd say, okay, I'd go out and I'd maybe drive them around the track in like a street car, and we talk about different turns, how you approach the turn, what gear you want to be in coming into that turn, where you should be hitting the apex of the turn, hitting your marks, things like that.
So what else did you do other than teach? What else
I
did you?
also worked in the media for NASCAR. That was my main deal is I worked in the media.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So I was covering every race every weekend.
So how was that? That had to be very. Was that very? I know it had to be time consuming, but
Oh, I mean, I was gone all the time. From Thursday till Sunday night, I was gone every week. And
that's
and
what.
people,
Did that either get to you?
oh
You know.
yeah. Oh yeah, you get burned out big time. You start in and it's all bright and shiny and new, and you're like, I'm going to be a road warrior forever. And man, after like the 5 year mark, you're like, oh, do I
You're like,
really have to pack again? And like I said, it doesn't matter how fast your plane is or The fact you got a private plane sitting like on the other side of the racetrack at a private airfield, ready to take off, it doesn't mean anything. It's just getting you home a little bit quicker because we all, we missed our animals and our families and doing things with friends. You almost couldn't because you were so tied up with being gone all the time. And then when you came home, you were literally thrashing to get ready for the next weekend. So you didn't stop. And people think, oh, what do race car drivers do? Or people in the NASCAR bubble, what do they do in the off season? The answer is you work really hard because you have from the last race to the Daytona 500 to get all of your next year's stuff done. And I'm talking everything. So new cars, new hero cards, new trading cards, new advertising, new everything. So everybody is this machine and you're all like in the off season. Yes, you might have off for 1 week at Thanksgiving and then it's hammer down. Back to work.
So tell me about your time as a driver. How was that? What's that like?
Oh, well, I'll tell you one little story. So I was going to go bush racing. We called it bush racing back then. It would be the Xfinity series now. And I got a sponsor. It was called USA Calling Card. And Richard Petty did too. And I got a stacks of remember in the good old days before when to make a long distance call, you could get like a calling card, scratch off the code and use the calling card. Okay.
Or
So we're
oh,
we're talking
yeah,
like I might be a little too old school for some of y'all on here. Um but we
around.
both got sponsored and I went to these dinners and everything seemed great. And then the sponsor was in Canada, actually. They were based out of Canada. I think they got raided or something. And the whole sponsorship fell apart, went away. And that was pretty much like the end of my budding Bush series career. And it never went anywhere after that. Um, but yeah, that's it. But if you're, yeah, okay. Oh, someone said, what's the difference between open wheel and NASCAR? Jeanette, the NASCAR is stock cars are full bodied cars. They're basically modeled off of a street car. So, you say a Ford Mustang, that template that they put over the car has to fit a Ford template. Whereas open wheel cars or prototypes like an IMSA, they're they're race made race cars. So they have wings on them and their tires, the tires aren't under, they don't have fenders. So you hit wheels, you're wrecking. Um it's a totally, they're lighter, they're faster, they're built more for road racing. I really liked road racing. That was fun to me. It was like playing a chess game with everybody else driving because it was outmaneuvering, outwitting, outlasting, outplaying. um i I did some oval track stuff, but I really was a road racer at heart. I never really wanted to do oval track that much. And back afterwards, I did do a little like I was going out with somebody that worked for the Wood Brothers, head engine builder, and racing carts, and we'd go and race carts, and that was fun. Um, but I just got burned out, and honestly, racing's obviously in my blood. I raced greyhounds for many years until basically racing has been pretty much is the industry's pretty much gone in America. And I've had horses my entire life. Um, I was always doing hunter jumpers, but about 3 years ago, I, I've always been into horses, and of course Brett got into horses because of me. But he always had a big, huge interest in race horses, and so for Christmas one year, I got him one of those My Racehorse micro shares, and I got him like three of them. And that's how the racehorse thing started because we had riding horses. He had a Cleveland Bay, I had a thoroughbred, and we had our riding horses. We had, the dogs were our jam. We showed dogs, we raised dogs. I do canine reproduction for a living. So, it was like the horses were just kind of my deal, but he liked the racing. Well, I got it in my head that we're going racing. And um we claimed our first racehorse, and that horse's name was Buttons, and he got claimed back out from underneath me like 2 races later, so we didn't end up owning him for long. But then came a slew of horses, and I quickly discovered that, nothing against claiming, but unless you're doing like the really upper end claimers, I'm not, you're just claiming somebody else's headache. So we decided that instead of claiming or buying, we had bought horses at auction that were, it would say like in the catalog, horses of racing age, that had previous, race record or ready and were for sale at auction or whatever. And I'm talking like Keeneland sale or Fasig-Tipton sale, the big auction houses. Um, and I bought, Brett works twice a month at the ABC store doing the trucks. And it was kind of like, that's where my Whiskey Witch stuff went in. So he got to get off the farm. He got to get away from me. And he had his little harem over there. And he was at work one day, and he came home, and I said, I bought a horse. And he said, what? Just like that. I said, I bought a horse. What? I said, actually, it's coming tomorrow, and it's only 8 months old. What? So that was the beginning of us raising the horses, and we both jointly decided on the you have to register your silks, and people may not know about jockey silks, but all jockey silks are unique. Nobody, they check they check and make sure that your silks don't match anybody else's. Now, you might have silks that look very similar, but they can't match. And this is physically a pair of silks that our jockeys have worn.
That's
And I think in here, your name gets, the owner's name gets embroidered on them. Yeah, it does. It says on the bottom here. It says Kristen S. Block. So the silks all go into the jockey room, and there's thousands of silks hanging up, and there's a guy in charge of the silks, and he literally pulls the silks down for the races and gives them to the jockey's valet. And then the jockey's valet, that's their job to make sure that they put that owner's silks on for that particular race. Um, but I will say at this point that the horses are absolutely our passion. It is one of the reasons I get up every day, is because of the horses. Um, we do have a 2-year-old that just got to the track in Delaware, and he's doing really well. And we expect he's going to be making his first start within the next month or two. He will be racing in these colors. And the blinkers, we do have blinkers. If our horses need blinkers, we do have blinkers that match our silks. And the cap on the jockey is this color of lime green. And we picked that because it was easy to look at the jockeys' heads from a distance on TV and be able to catch that color. Because there's so many red and blues, I just wanted something that was really going to stick out to us. So, by the way, on my going back to the diamond painting stuff, oh, you worked at Monmouth Park when there were only a couple women jockeys out there. Very cool. Yeah, so Bruce will probably be racing at Aqueduct this winter. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a different world. It's very similar to greyhound racing in some respects. But the money is I mean, immense in horse racing. I mean, just immense. It's it's a little scary at times. I'm not gonna lie, and it is definitely a financial risk. But it is, winning a horse race is like, I can't even describe what a feeling it is. It is the best feeling in the entire world. Literally, I've gone back to my hotel room after being in the getting a winner's circle picture, and I swear I've fallen asleep with a smile on my face. It is just, it's just, I can't even explain it. It's just the most cool feeling in the world.
So had you always loved horses?
Oh yeah.
When
Since I
always
was a little since I was a little kid. Little kid. I mean, I've been riding, I want to say since like 4th or 5th grade. Um and we didn't, my sister and I, we showed almost every weekend, and back then if you missed school it was no big deal. So I did miss, school some days because of horse showing. We did ride 6 days a week. We only had Mondays off, and if we had to, you know, cold hose horses or put a whirlpool boot on them or treat them in some way, we still had to go to the barn on Mondays, but the barn was basically closed for riding on Mondays. Um, but it was great. I mean, I can't complain about my life thus far. I mean, and I said, I think my ex-husband did me a favor, because I wouldn't have this right here, right now, if he'd been involved. I'll tell you that right now. And this
yeah.
is something that Brett and I love together, and we love the dogs together, and we can sit there and have discussions about it. When my ex-husband would come home from work after I'd be up at 4 o'clock in the morning, work till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, go back out at 4, work till 6:30 every single day for 10 years in a row, taking care of racing greyhounds. And I'd want to talk to him, because my whole life was immersed in these dogs. I'd want to talk to him, and he'd be like, I don't want to talk about that. Brett, we could talk all day long. I asked him the other day, I said, hey, who was buttoned up out of again? Was he out of mind boggling? He's like, no, he was out of Fastener. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That it was a really good mare. I mean, he remembers stuff like that. We can talk about stuff like that. And that's like the perfect partner, someone that you can discuss all that stuff with.
So how many horses do you have racing right now?
Right now, this very minute, we have one of the colts is home. He's a tonalist colt, which tonalist won the Belmont Stakes several years ago. And
Wow.
Tony was known as a very large, tall horse, and his little son outside is no exception. He is actually like a giraffe. He's a little too big. His sister Scholar is at Laurel, Maryland right now, and he's out of a German mare. I did buy him at Fasig-Tipton, and he's very slow to mature. And his sister started in her 3-year-old year. So what we did is, we're using Travis Durr Training Center. He had 2 in the Oaks this year. He finished second in the Oaks, and he had 1 in the Derby for Jason Worth from the Philadelphia Phillies. He had Flying Mohawk in the Derby. So we're in the barn now with like Legion Bloodstock, Icon Racing, which is Jason Worth. And lo and behold, some of my old Greyhound cronies are not only in our baby trainers barn, but they're in our track trainers barn. So all of these people that we were associated with in dogs, all of a sudden we're back in the same circle with them in racehorses, which is just, it's cool. It's really cool.
Mm.
But yeah. And then the dog showing thing, I've shown dogs. I've had dogs since 1976. I had Ginger. Started out AKC, junior showmanship, 4-H, all that stuff. And, it got burned out, had a few instances in dog showing, quit for a while, got back into it. Um, I'm an AKC judge now and a UKC judge. I'm judging in Italy next month. And I'm judging in Perry, Georgia, I think not next weekend, but I think the following weekend. Um, you know, pantyhose, St. John's suits, dragging my beagles around or pointing at dogs saying, you're first, you're second, you're third, you're fourth. So that's basically what I do now.
So, okay, explain the difference. How does it feel? What's the difference between flying in a in a car to flying on the racetrack? What's it feel like? What's the difference? What do you prefer? The race
Flying.
car or the race horse?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't ride the race horses at speed, but
Right, but you
man, that's a
trying.
hard. I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I will say this that when you're driving at those kind of speeds, it feels like you're driving like this is going to sound weird, like at normal speed. And I've gotten caught. I've gotten pulled over before, to be very honest. I remember I was leaving, I want to say Laguna Seca, and I got pulled over in California because I was driving like 125 on the access road, and
Okay.
I felt like I was, it was actually, I think that's an exaggeration. It was probably like 90. I think that was an exaggeration, but I got pulled over, and I said, "Man, I just got out of a race car," and you feel, you get used to that feeling, right? So honestly, I'm going to say the race horses give me a bigger thrill just because it is
Mhm.
so flippin' hard to win a horse race. People just think it's it's easy. You got 8 horses out there, 10 horses. Race cars can be put back together. Race horses, you can't replace parts, or race dogs, you can't replace parts.
Right.
So, I mean, there was just a jockey that was in a wreck, I want to say a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, and he broke his C3, and he said he's
Oh,
done. He's done. He should have been a quadriplegic, and he survived it. Um, those people put their lives on the line like way more. I'm going to say it like this. I think what they do is much more dangerous than a race car driver because there's so much safety equipment built into the car, and there's so much safety equipment on the person versus what does the jockey really have? You have your helmet and you have your vest on. But that's not protecting your arms, your legs, your neck,
yeah.
anything. And these jockeys, like, they ride broken, beaten, and scarred. And they get up on that, they just get up on those horses. I mean, it's they're just the ultimate athletes. And on top of it, you got to think about them making weight. So these guys are literally like starving themselves, stay in weight. I mean, and we all know that there's ways that they stay in weight. They heave or whatever before a race. So, you know, it's not an easy life. Food is definitely an enemy to those guys, unless you're naturally that little. I mean, there are some jockeys that I would say are legitimately little people that come to mind, where they actually have like a gut on them a little bit, but they're extremely short, very small. And then my jockey Juan, he's very tall for a jockey. Looks like he'd be a jump jockey more so than a flat jockey. And he struggles to keep weight. And I've seen him come out of the jocks room and just be like white. And like, you just don't even know how he's staying on the horse. And the last time he scared me is he had won, and he literally had to stop and dunk his head in a bucket of water because I think he was ready to pass out. I mean, it's not an easy life. And that whole racetrack bubble, it's just like the dog racing bubble. Small community. Every track has their backside workers, we call them the backside. And that's its own little universe. And I try not to get involved in any of that drama. I'm an owner, and I don't want to know about any of that stuff going on back there, to be honest with you. And I'm not talking like illegal drugs or anything like that. I'm talking about the little infighting between trainers or grooms or whatever. I mean, we know there's drama in everything. There's drama in diamond painting. I mean, let's face it, there's drama in diamond painting.
Yep.
I try to buffer myself from even hearing about any of that because I don't want that to be ruined for me. So I
Right.
just avoid drama like the plague.
I don't like it either, and I don't think there's any place for it really in anything. If you have an issue with someone, keep it to yourself. Keep it
Yeah,
between you and that person. Don't put it out in the open because frankly, I don't care. I I,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, sometimes I do because it concerns your family or your friends. But other than that, you know, if it ruined other people's um illusions on other people, like I might have a friend that does something bad to someone. Well, they're not gonna like me because I'm friends with that person, and all that dynamic that just it makes me very sad and it hurts me, and I don't like to be part of it.
Nah, I don't either.
At best I can. But the fact that you've known so many people, I mean, well-known people. So is it hard to train a horse? How long
Um,
did it take to get a horse on a racetrack? How long?
I don't know because I don't train them. What I do with the babies is make sure that they're got a good solid foundation, that they're able to be bathed without
Mm,
freaking out, that they're able to be brushed, that
okay.
when the toneless colt came home, he was constantly trying to kick, and Brett would just grab a hold of his leg and be like, "No, you're not kicking," and he learned no. I mean, and for a big old 17 one-hand 2-year old young little stallion, he's very well behaved. I got to say that. We gave him a good solid foundation and we don't let him get away with anything. The one thing you don't want to do with baby horses is feed them out of your hand, so no treats out of your hand, because little baby colts, little baby stallions, they get very nippy. And one thing babies do as a protection is we call it clacking. So when they get approached by an older horse, they go clack, 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 clack. And that's telling that horse that, hey, I'm a baby, don't hurt me. Even though I'm big, I'm a big baby, don't hurt me. And that's
Oh,
just a signal. And then the adult horses know that's a baby, leave it alone, don't kick at it, don't bite it, leave it alone.
wow.
Yeah, it's herd. They're herd animals. They're actually they're prey. They're not predators. They're prey. So horses can spook. Something new is all of a sudden outside of their stall, and they're like, "Oh," you know. Um,
Yeah.
but they're very cool, and I'll let everybody know when our horse Bruce, his racing name is Bewitcher. When Bewitcher is getting ready to make a start, I'll let everybody know, and you'll be able to watch him on FanDuel TV or TVG or whatever.
That gives me a whole new appreciation for racehorses, which I love. I mean, I do. I live in Kentucky, we all, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, well, yeah, you live in bourbon and thoroughbred country.
I do, and we love those. I mean, I do. That I do. So lead me to my next question. But before I do that, I do have some comments that, like Nut Nut said, this was that when you were talking about racing. I lived a few hours from the Moncton Island, Delaware, and then Helen wanted to know the difference between the cars, but you did tell that. And then Nut said she talked to me Richard Teddy at Dover, and he was just on that. He was um up on Miles the Monster. So that's cool. Richard Teddy. Who was it came here? Dale Earnhardt. Yeah, came to my little town, and well, I don't. No, I take it back. he didn't come tell them that they brought his car here, for us to look at and see. And that I remember my dad taking me to see that car, and I actually had pictures. I didn't
Yeah.
write about that up until now, or I would have shown you that. But and then Jeanette had asked, "Do you do a lot of road racing or Survivor?" Uh,
Ugh,
looked
I
at me.
think that was a joke. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. And then yeah. She lives like a few hours south of the track in Delaware, which I love racing too. My dad loved it. That is the one he loved football and he loved college basketball, but his passion was racing like NASCAR. So,
Yeah.
but all of that reminds me, you mentioned that you were tied up in a lawsuit,
Yeah. I
and
was gonna.
want to
We
talk.
needed to bring that up. Yeah. So the lawsuit and I think it was on Rich's live. We were talking about copyright issues.
Mm-hmm.
So this does tie into NASCAR, everybody. So back in the day, uh, Johnny Benson was driving for Bahari Racing, and he was sponsored by Pennzoil. Well, Johnny Benson was moving over to Jack Roush Racing and was going to be sponsored by Cheerios, which is General Mills. So they asked if I could send some chrome film of Johnny, portraits of Johnny, over to them, I guess for them to look at John, because he was going to be the face of Cheerios in NASCAR. Well, in their brilliance, what they did was they took my picture, photoshopped out Bahari and Pennzoil, and proceeded to put my images not only all over Cheerios boxes across the country, on coupons, point of sales, stand up, everywhere. And I went to a press conference with Johnny and Roush Racing and Cheerios. And I'm walking around and they had this pyramid of boxes set up of Cheerios boxes. And I looked and I looked again. I said, wait a minute, that's mine. So I called up General Mills and I said, hey, can I get some samples of all of the point of sales and things that you printed up for my portfolio? And back then we had the answering machines with the tape in them.
I had
I caught them red-handed. I got myself a copyright attorney and it was like boom, 5 people were fired and they settled so fast it would make your head spin. But this was where I was going with all of this with Rich. The one thing that upsets me with the diamond painting world is ripping off artwork. And I'm not just talking about Timu, okay? Fan art. Gotta be careful with the fan art. You cannot be drawing a picture of Mickey Mouse that is not in the public domain and putting down your diamond painting. That is illegal. You're setting yourself up for a lawsuit. People don't touch that stuff. Don't do it. It's not worth it. That is my on my soapbox, off my soapbox. That's my public service announcement for the day. Don't do illegal artwork. Period. And I'm not talking just you diamond painters. I'm talking about the artists out there that are using images that they shouldn't be using. Don't do it. It can result in hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees that you will have to pay for stealing.
So, so when you called General Mills, you actually, I can't believe that you were there and you actually saw that. How often does that happen there?
Oh, do you
So
know how often I got ripped off? Kodak ripped me off. You
yeah,
know, I got ripped off a lot. I just, it's how often you catch them. That's the big thing. How
yeah,
often do you catch them? But, if you're going to draw Winnie the Pooh, draw the Winnie the Pooh that is in the public domain, not the Winnie the Pooh with the red shirt on, not the Mickey Mouse with, whatever. Be careful. Be careful what you put out there because everybody is so happy nowadays. Back then, you know, your neighbor comes over, slips on your deck, falls, and there's a lawsuit. People love to sue nowadays. Don't, artists out there, don't set yourself up for lawsuits to sell an image. It's not worth it. That's what I can, as from being an artist for as long as I have. Okay, having a master's degree in fine art. Don't do it.
so how long does it take for an image to come in the public domain? Isn't it like 90 years or something like?
No, it's ah. I know that the Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse is in the public domain,
Oh yeah,
and
that's not 90 years.
any old master, anything, even at this point, no, probably not him. Even art, done like Norman Rockwell, I think is going to be, believe it or not, is going to be coming up in the public domain soon. So, once Norman Rockwell's released, I'm sure companies will grab onto it. It's completely legal. I have no problem with that. But I have a problem with flat out stealing.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, I know everybody, as far as the Timu stuff and it's like a lot of the Timu stuff, believe it or not, is probably stolen. It's probably an image that is at that diamond fact painting factory and an employee gets a hold of it and steals it, or they're just taking it off of, like, let's say DAC. They're taking an image off of DAC, they're screenshotting it and they're making cheap copies of it. I mean, we're not going to be able to stop what's going on in China, okay? But just be aware, and just remember, sometimes when you buy cheap, that's what you're getting. You're getting cheap.
yeah,
And I'm all about supporting the artists and the companies. um but just make sure that your image isn't like, you're not stealing. You can take Steamboat Willie, any artist. I can take Steamboat Willie, slap him on canvases, completely legal. You can do it, I can do it, they can do it, we can all do it. Just don't take the stuff that's not in the public domain.
I remember Steamboat Willie as a child. That.
That's Mickey
Uh,
Mouse. Yeah, the first.
no.
I mean, I think the first Snoopy is now in the public domain. I mean,
Yeah.
that's fine. It's fine. Dak has got legally licensed Snoopy and Marvel and Star Wars, and oh my God, I know Rich got 14 or something of those, or maybe it was way more, like 23 of those Star Wars canvases, and I was looking at them like, oh, I kind of want the Baby Yoda and Mandalorian one.
Yeah.
um, I mean, it's cool, but they got licensed. They went down the right avenues. Just, if you're going to borrow, just make sure you got permission to borrow.
Right.
That's it, but yeah, I mean, I caused a lot of people to get fired, but rightly so. They stole from me. I mean, I'm
Well,
sure that the people that benefit from it didn't get fired. It was the underlings that got fired for probably not checking copyright status.
right. Yeah. And
And I,
that,
I did what I had to do to protect myself.
and yeah, you did. And I think that you rightly did so. And you should have. But yeah, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to stop that, and all we can do is educate, which we do as much as we possibly can. Now, that leads me to my next question that I wanted to ask before I let into one more thing. You're racing dogs. What is your part in that? Do you train them? Do you
Oh, with the race dogs,
them?
the
Yeah.
race dogs is gone. That when Amendment 13 passed in Florida, the whole industry imploded. So we don't have a single greyhound here anymore. I raise and
Right.
I breed and raise show beagles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's training that, I mean, from the time they're little puppies and their little noodle legs can barely stand up, I'm doing what's called stacking them. So, their front legs are underneath them and their back legs, you want their legs to be straight up and down, and you train them to stack. We call it stacking. I don't care if it's a mastiff or a beagle or a greyhound or an Irish wolfhound. Basically, everything is the same. And same thing like when I judge them. So we're going to judge the dog on its conformation, so how it structurally comes together, and then on how it moves. So we'll have a dog do what's called a down and back. They'll go trot away from me and trot back towards me as a judge. And I will look for things like their legs paddling or them hocking in at the rear. And that is how we judge. And it's the same thing when you go to a thoroughbred auction and you're buying a yearling, let's say, and Fasig-Tipton just had the Saratoga yearling sale. There were so many yearlings that went for over $1 million. It was like mind-boggling. There was one that did not sell, did not meet the reserve for 3.9 million. 3.9 million. And all they're doing is judging these horses off their pedigree on a piece of paper and how they walk. And that's exactly how we judge dogs. Basically, structure is everything, conformation is everything. If the horse if the horse is back at the knee or sickle hocked, it's going to have breakdown issues. You look at the pasterns, the length of the pasterns, all that kind of stuff. And I do it in the dogs.
Is it
So it's
hard to judge a
uh
dog first? Is that hard? Because to me,
it's not hard, but you have to have a lot of experience in the sport, in the fancy of dog showing, and you really need to really understand structure. I always say you almost have to have the ability, you almost have to have x-ray vision. So you almost have to be able to like see underneath that fluffy golden retriever and see its skeleton to see how it's put together. And that's what you're basically judging. Because a good handler can do a real fancy groom job on a dog. Like you think of the poodles for one thing, and cover up a plethora of conformational faults. And as a judge, it is our job to not fault find, but to award the dog that has the least amount of faults, that is the best representation of that breed on the day that we're judging. So just because I put up, say, your dog today, doesn't mean that the judge tomorrow is going to put your dog up. They might see something completely different. There might be a dog entered in that was not entered under me, that was entered under that person. So people get, real bent out of shape sometimes when I'm judging. And one thing I do is I point at the winner, I turn, I mark my catalog. I don't want to see eyes roll. I don't want to hear a mutter under their breath. I ignore all that. I mark my book. I hand them their ribbon. They're out of my ring.
right.
I'm not a warm and fuzzy judge. I'd like to think I'm a good and a fair judge. I don't judge off of what you're wearing. I don't judge off of who you're politically connected to. I don't judge that you just advertised your dog in the last 9 magazines. I don't care. I judge what's in front of me on the day.
You should. Now,
Yes,
how long
you
is
should.
it to judge a show?
How what now?
How long does it take to judge
Oh
a
my
show
goodness.
in one sitting?
Oh my goodness. I have been judging. I think the longest I ever judged was over 200 dogs. I want to say I started at 9 and ended at like 10:30 at night. It was horrific. It
Oh,
was right when the pandemic was starting to get over and dog shows were starting to open back up and all these people hadn't shown in forever and were frantic and I got piled on. So usually we are limited to 175 dogs a day.
geez.
Yeah, it's a lot. And you have to know your standards. So when I'm going over to Italy, I'm judging only American Pit Bull Terriers. It's a specialty show in Rome.
Okay. Okay. And how long will you be there?
Probably about 48 hours.
That's all? Oh, wow.
That's all.
Really?
I'm going to get on an airplane. I'm going to get
Yes.
off. I'm going to get dressed the next day, go judge, and the next morning get back on a plane and fly back.
That's kind of sad. You should at least have the 2 days to go for Italy. But okay, I
Yeah,
get
well, that's they're paying you to do a job. They're not there for you to be on vacation.
that's
I'm
right.
there to do it. Yeah, I'm there to do a job.
Well, well, so how many judges are there in a dog show? Um,
It really depends on the size of the show. I mean, Westminster, a lot. A lot. I would say the average panel on at a cluster a weekend, maybe 8 to 15 at the most, maybe. I don't know. I don't really, actually, I just pay attention to my assignments. I don't really pay too much attention to anybody else. And I'm not, and I don't, I'll be honest with you, when I'm at a dog show judging, I usually hide in my room. I don't even like getting in the elevator with people because you might get in the elevator with an exhibitor. And if
right,
they realize you're a judge, and one thing I hate as a judge is when people are showing you and they say, oh, well, I won my national specialty last month. And I'm like, okay, you just went to the back of the line because you're trying to like bribe a judge right now. Don't even do it. Um,
right,
and so I really do tend to like really stick to myself. I DoorDash. I don't leave my room. I tend to just lock myself in and talk to, talk to my diamond painting friends or read or watch TV or whatever. I just really try to avoid the exhibitors because I want to be seen as being a very fair judge and not be you don't want to be caught out to eat with somebody that you're judging.
no,
I
that's
mean, there are rules. There's rules in place about stuff like that. Does it happen? Yeah, it does. Is it supposed to happen? No.
yeah. I
I
couldn't
mean,
do.
you want drama. You want drama. There's a yeah. Someone said brought up the Best in Show movie, which is a spoof on dog showing. If you haven't watched it, everybody needs to watch it because it is so true to form of what a dog show is really like. It's crazy. Like I love this movie called Chicken People, and it's about people that show chickens. And I bet you I've watched that movie 50 times.
Hey, I hate chickens. I'll be honest. No, I don't hate them. I don't like them in my yard. Let's put it that way. And yeah, so we used to have neighbors that had chickens, and they weren't contained. So we would wake up and they'd be on our porch, and they'd be in our yard. And my girls, my nieces, when they was younger, they got out to play, and they took plays to the chickens and hens, and catching at them, and so finally we had to do something about it. But they don't. I'm not a very good chicken person myself. Um, I do want to talk about something else before we do end here. Helen said that, and I'm not going to pronounce this right because I don't know the right pronunciation. That she said that she used to do, uh, is it dressage or cross country?
Oh, dressage, yeah, dressage and cross country and show jumping. So she did 3-day eventing, was what it
Yeah.
was called.
Okay.
I never did. I was forced to do some dressage to make our show jumpers supple, but I never did eventing. My parents would never allow us because the jumps don't move, they don't fall apart. Like maybe now they do, but back then they did not. And I've had enough concussions in my life just from wrecking on horses that I never did that. I did hunters and jumpers. At the end, I did jumpers. Um, and I say at the end, like it was like at the end, but basically what it was I went off to college, and there was once I went to graduate school, there was just no time for horses or dogs at that point.
Yeah.
I had neither in my life at that point in time when I was in graduate school.
I find that fascinating, that Helen said. I'm going to talk to you more about that. I won't. I find that fascinating. But yeah,
I'd thought about bringing Buddy on camera, um, but I didn't want to stress Brett out, and I didn't know how Buddy would react. But I almost thought about doing the live outside with Buddy holding Buddy standing next to me in my big toneless Colt, but I don't. I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I'm not sure how that would have worked out with him standing there.
well, if he had either been on camera, I mean, I'm assuming he has.
Oh yeah, but I mean he's it.
But
Best in Show is what Jeanette asked. Best in Show was the other with the chickens. It is called Chicken People, Jeanette. And you would not believe what these people do, these chickens. They're bathed, they're blown dry, they're groomed. It's amazing what these show chicken people do. They keep track of all their pedigrees. Just like there's another show called Catwalk, and it was about two top cats in the cat show world that were vying for like the Westminster of cats. And the amount of drama in dog showing, cat showing, chicken showing, horse showing is unbelievable. I mean, there's drama in everything, but wow.
I hadn't
Dog showing drama though really is next level drama. It really is.
really. I had no idea there was a chicken showing. I never heard of that. Um,
I hadn't either, but it fascinates me.
I know.
It's fascinating. You really need to watch the movie Chicken People. It's like I think it's like 4 or 5 different people, and like following them around as they're getting ready for the Ohio National or something, which is like their version of Westminster. And it's crazy. And they're like, did you see what that judge put up? They put that cockerel up over my cockerel. My cockerel was much better. That judge must be blind. I mean, you got to watch these movies. They're just hilarious.
Crazy. That's crazy. They learn something new every day. And Lee said that Destin Show versus Destin Breed, it seemed to be apples and oranges. So,
Oh,
yeah,
it is. It is. So, best in breed. Okay, if you want to know how dog shows work. So, the breed shows to itself. So, all the beagles go in, and you have class dogs, we do call them bitches. The female dog is a bitch. I'm not cussing, it's what they're called. So, you have class dogs, class bitches, and then the specials. The specials are the dogs that are champions, grand champions, whether they're dogs or bitches. So the class dogs show against each other, the class bitches show against each other, and then the best class dog and the best class bitch go in for best of winners with the specials. And out of that group, a judge will pick your best of breed or variety. So Beagle is a variety. There's a 13-inch variety and a 15-inch variety. They'll pick best of breed or best of variety, best of opposite sex, and if there's enough specials, there'll be a select dog and a select bitch and a best of winners. So the whoever wins the breed, let's say Tammy, you've got a Dalmatian, I've got a Beagle. Your Dalmatian wins breed, mine wins breed. I will go into the hound group. You will go into the non-sporting group. The dog or bitch that wins first place in their group goes on to best in show. Then
Okay.
the one that wins best in show obviously is best in show. The second place dog is called reserve best in show.
Okay.
So they go by the amount of dogs defeated. So if there's like 1,500 dogs entered and you went best in show, it'll show on your dog's basically score sheet that you defeated 1,500 dogs.
Right. Wow. See, you learn a lot. I can learn a lot talking to you because this is just what I
Believe me,
like.
I'm burnt out on dog showing. I mean, I dog showed a couple weeks ago. I've got a judge. There is a show this weekend. I was actually asked not to show because one of the people showing, I actually put on as a co-owner on one of my young stud dogs, and he said he needed to finish a dog, meaning make it a champion. Asked me to kindly not show that dog, so I didn't. So Brett's happy as a clam that we're not showing this weekend. We will show probably one more time this year, and I've got 3 more judging assignments yet this year.
So, how many horses do you own right now, and how many dogs do you own?
Horses, we've got our 2 riding horses and the 2 colts and 2 donkeys right now. That's what we have right now. We did
Donkey.
have 5 horses here at one time. That's all we have right now. That's plenty of expense. You don't even want to know. Dogs, Brett's probably laughing. I'm not really sure. I think maybe about, with the pet beagles, maybe about 14 or 15 beagles. I got 3 plot hounds, 1 Treeing Walker, 1 miniature American Shepherd Grand Champion that's a stud that I co-own with a lady in Canada, and about 16 or 17 boar goats.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Just you know what? So that leads me to something else I wanted to touch on before we end is dog breeding. How did you get into dog breeding? And
Oh, I started breeding literally with it was my dad actually pulled me out of school. It was like 1976. I've been really I've bred a lot of racing greyhounds. We've bred, now we've moved on to only show dogs and only beagles. I just bred a female to my little new stud Henry, and I have a bitch that is currently in season that I'm getting ready to breed to uh, Grand Champion Landber's National Anthem, also known as Nathan, and that is frozen semen that I'm going to be using on her. So I should be having litters of puppies ready to go right around Thanksgiving.
okay.
And
So
Christmas, actually, I'm probably pushing to Christmas now, but they're pregnant for 60 days from the time I breed them. And then we choose what we're going to keep to show at 8 weeks. That's when we think that is a glimpse of what they're going to be like as an adult. You're looking at the angles on the front and the rear, and head set, ear set, all that good stuff. And then the ones that we don't keep, I only sell my beagles to pet homes on limited registration. I do not sell on full registration or to show homes. Um, because that is my life's work in that bloodline, and I don't just give it out freely. Now, do some of my friends have a couple of my females? John does, and my friend Elaine does, yes, but that is personal within our kennel space. But outside of our kennel space, we don't allow our bloodlines outside of our kennel, just as pets that are to be spayed or neutered.
that makes sense. That I can understand that. That makes sense. That I think that's the right call. And I know nothing about it, but it seems to me the right call to make. So the breeding process. Can you kind of walk us through that? I'm
So
sorry.
I
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows what a colonoscopy is, right?
Right.
And they go in with an endoscope, but it's a flexible endoscope to make sure that, you're okay. So what I do is I use what's called a rigid endoscope. So it's not bendy. It's like a rod, and it's has a camera on it, just like colonoscopy. And what I do is I go in with this endoscope and I visualize the female cervix, and I pass an 8 French catheter through the cervix into her uterus and deposit the semen, whether it's fresh, chilled, or frozen, into the female after careful, the veterinarians that are working with the clients, after careful timing, knowing when she ovulated, then we do the breedings. So that's what I do. And I also freeze canine semen. So I just froze a couple dogs today. And that's analyzing the cells, you know, motility, morphology, which is the physical makeup of the cell, and any cells that aren't perfect, you must discard. Um, it's a lot of science and a lot of counting and a lot of math problems that will bore you all to death unless you're breeding dogs. So,
Do you have to go to school for that? And if you do, how long?
do I have to do what now?
Do you have to go to school for that? Is that a training? And how long does it take them?
Honestly, what I do with the endoscope, I mean, to be not to be like to be blunt, that you can't be taught how to use that. You can be taught how to put that endoscope together,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as how to do the procedure, it's you either get it or you don't, because you're looking at a 30-degree angle, right? So if your brain is telling you need to go down, you actually really need to go up.
Okay.
And you can't really, I don't really, I don't know if you can train somebody to do that. It's just, and you can't practice if they're not in season. So I've been doing it for 30 years. Um, I, I don't really have an answer to that. You can, I guess, sit and watch and then get it in your hand, know how it's put together and try. But I mean, I've had vets call me up and like send me videos, and they don't know where they're going, because when you get inside, it looks like these pink puffy pillows everywhere, and you have to know the anatomy from that direction. It's almost something that can't be taught, to be
Right.
honest with you.
Right.
That's why there's so real few of us that are really good at doing that procedure, because it's just, I mean, my husband doesn't even really pay attention. He holds the female on the table for me, but you know, I he knows how to put the scope together. He knows how to take it apart. But if I put it in his hand and told him to go to town, could he do it? I don't know. It'd be an interesting experiment if he would try.
How long did that process take?
I bred two females today. Both went well, and it probably took me 90 seconds.
Okay. So not long.
No, but
Oh,
there's some, if their bitches aren't timed properly, or like, I hate to say this, in a lot of the American bully breeds, the conformation is not good. They're kind of, call them hippy dippy. So they kind of got this dip in their top line, and then they're high in the rear. So what happens when you go in there, all the blood from their heat cycle had no way to escape. And all of a sudden, I gave it an escape route, and I literally get a bloodbath. And it ain't bright red blood. It's brown, stinky, rotten blood.
right.
So we do run into that. And when we have those issues, it takes a little bit of time. Um, Not timing properly, wanting to breed too early, you're going to run into issues. breeding too late, you're it's going to absolutely be obvious you're way too late. You're not going to even be able to do the procedure at all. It's just it's experience. Y- People fresh out of vet school. I'm sorry, they just don't have the experience to be literally taking people's money to do this because
Right,
it takes a long time and a lot of experience. I've done literally thousands of these at this point.
right. Well, you know, it's like a surgeon. You don't become a great
Yeah.
surgeon right out of medical school. You gotta do a few hundred surgeries, but yeah, you're right, a
I mean, and
thousand.
we all know, I mean, everybody's been to a doctor and said, this doctor's an idiot. Just because they went to school doesn't mean that they're good at their job or they've got good bedside manner. We've all ran into bad doctors. Shoot, when I broke my back a couple years ago, I stupidly bought a Halflinger pony, and those are devil ponies. That's all I'll say about that. But I had an ED doctor that was so focused on, do you hurt anywhere else? I said, yeah, my arm, my wrist. She was so focused on thinking my wrist was broken. I was in so much pain. They had to hit me with fentanyl to get me on the backboard. It was the most, that was, I'll tell you, with the broken back might have actually been more painful than the broken face. And
Um,
I've had my hip replaced too. That was nothing compared to that broken back. Nothing.
how did that happen? May I ask that?
Ugh. I bought a Halflinger pony. I decided I wanted a pony. In my old age, I wanted a pony again. So I buy this Halflinger pony at auction, bring her home, ride her on the farm. She seems fine. Brett was in bed sick with RSV. And I said, oh, but it's so pretty outside. I really want to ride my new pony. So I go and get the pony and I tack her up and I ride her. Like, she started making like weird faces. Like, basically what I'm getting to is I don't think this pony was not on anything when I bought her, put it that way. I fell for that old trick.
Okay.
And I pushed her into a trot and I started to post, and I posted once, twice, three times, and boom, she went off like a time bomb. I mean, now
Oh,
I've ridden big warm bloods, big like old school master dressage horses where they'd like kind of like they'd buck to stretch their back or whatever. Or my mare will sometimes rear on me, but boy, you can feel if you've been riding long enough, you can feel their muscles tense up and you can feel it coming and pull their head up or just say, knock it off. This pony, she gave me zero clue that she was going to go off like a time bomb. She went off like a time bomb. And I myself, oh my God, what's going on? And then thinking, oh my God, she's like gone crazy. And I think I must have rode out her. I think she was rodeo bucking, to be honest with you. I think she was just doing all four off the ground. And I must have landed about 50 feet maybe from where she started. And I was like flat, laying flat. Sun was shining in my face. My helmet was on. I had a vest on with my cell phone in the pocket. And I was like, wow. I landed flat on my back. And I said, I've never felt like this before. This isn't good. And I'm thinking, okay, 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 okay. Can you wiggle your toes? I think so. I think so. I get in my pocket. I call Brett. No answer. Hang up again. Call Brett. No answer. Call Brett. No answer. Call Brett. No answer. Now, mind you, he's only probably 25 to 30 yards, probably from where I'm laying in the mud, asleep or whatever. He was, sick in bed. So I finally called 911, and that's what woke him up. He heard the fire trucks and the ambulances and that stuff. The pony had picked her way out of the paddock and was running up the road. And I was like, at that point, I was like, God, I hope she gets hit. Because I was like, and he ran and got her. And then they wanted to take him to the hospital because he couldn't breathe and was ready to pass out because he had RSV. Long story short, I got RSV too with a broken back at Christmas.
Oh,
Ended up in the hospital, I don't know how many times, couldn't breathe. I literally thought I was going to meet my maker that time because I couldn't. I mean, my O2 level, the dinger in the hospital, it was like because I could they couldn't keep my O2 up. It was horrible. But
oh, yeah. That
I've
was,
lived to tell about all of it.
yes, you did. I mean, that's what I was getting ready to say. That was your shock to your system anyway. And then you did everything on top of that. And you're
Oh,
there.
it was that. Let me tell you about that hospital. They misdiagnosed a broken back until the next morning. I got no food, no water. They left me lay in my own urine. They never they cut the sleeve off my shirt and cut my breeches off. I had riding breeches on, but they left part of the shirt on me. It was covered in mud. I was on a striker bed and I was stuck to it and they left me laying there like that. Then they
Oh,
moved at the 23-hour mark. They moved me out into the hallway and put like curtains around me, and a PA found all the breaks. Then I got action. All of a sudden, then I'm in a hotel, then I'm in a hospital bed. Then they're not letting me out of the hospital for days. Long story short, I didn't end up paying that hospital bill.
you shouldn't have.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't. I
Okay.
didn't. They were so the negligence from that emergency department was so bad. Just because they're a vet or a doctor doesn't mean they're good at their job. Period. If you second anybody out there, you second guess your doctor, get another opinion because you might be right and they might be wrong.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've always said that. I always make sure you did a second, and sometimes you even need
A
a
third
third
opinion. That's right.
too. And that, I don't always go with the third opinion because I frankly do not. I don't trust that they make the right decision. Most of the time, I have, but there's been a couple of times where I just felt like I need another opinion, and it paid off, and I'm
Yeah.
thankful about it. So, but I'm very thankful that you're okay because you're very lucky in that you have really you've overcome a lot, which leads me to the last thing I want to touch on before we leave. I have to know, how did you get into the bourbon business? And I love your name, the Whiskey Witch. I love it.
Oh, the whiskey business. So,
Whiskey, yeah,
real simple.
whiskey.
So I was always really into wine, and when we raced out in Sonoma, I would a lot of times fly out early because we'd have the semi trucks with for the race car haulers going out there. So it's like, you got a free ride for all the wine you buy in wine country to bring it back home. Um, so I was really into wine tasting and collecting wine and things like that. And throughout when my hip kind of I had a real bad doctor that I fired before my hip. I gained weight, okay? Long story short, break the face, everything. You get put on some like gabapentin, whatever, for your mental health. There's stuff you can get put on make you gain weight. So I was always like jockey weight and I gained weight. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this new keto diet. A lot of people, and I was like, well, I really shouldn't be drinking any wine because it's got carbs in it and I'm carb free now. So I was like, what can I so I was like, okay, well, whiskey doesn't have any carbs in it, or any alcohol doesn't have carbs in it as long as you're not mixing it. So 73 in Maine is a local restaurant and they had bourbon classes there. And we started going. Now Brett doesn't drink at all, but we started like socializing on. It was like once a month or something. It was like $20, and they would do like 3 blind tastings of a bourbon, and a little like charcuterie plate or something. And I just really got immersed in the art. I was very immersed in the art of wine, but I got immersed in the art of bourbon and the fact that it was an American spirit and the whole history behind it. And I just discovered that I had a very good palate. I was able to um, s- sniff out the different aromas. You know, you got your sweet, your savory, your sour, you got your caramels and your vanillas and your baking spices that are classic bourbon flavors. And I became very good at that. Um, and I started I started a YouTube channel. I was just the whiskey witch because my brother called me the whiskey B word. And I said, well, we can't use that. So it became whiskey witch. And then we were only doing YouTube and we weren't doing any barrel picks. Well, then I started doing barrel picks for the ABC system in North Carolina. And I started traveling to different distilleries and they would roll out barrels for you to try. And then I would basically purchase them for the state of North Carolina. I actually was responsible for bringing several labels into the state of North Carolina. I do have a whiskey named after me, Alan Bishop, that used to be with Spirits of French Lick. He's now with Old Homestead Distilling. He named I was there visiting and picking out some whiskeys and I said, "Do you have anything new, anything strange?" He goes, "Ooh, I've got something for you." And what's it called? He goes, "I don't know." So in my notebook, I call it my whiskey Bible. I got a whole big thick book of notes that I've taken from all the barrel picks I've done and tasting notes. And I said, well, let's call it Weird One, Weird Two, Weird Three. And I think we ended up buying Weird Two. And then he talked to the distillery owner. He came over. He goes, by the way, the new whiskey's name is Whiskey Witch. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. I was like, oh.
That is cool.
So yeah, I mean, that was an honor. But I have like a barrel head over here that Heaven Hill Distillery sent me from Bardstown, Kentucky. That just it was for my birthday. It's got my logo on it. It says Larceny on it from one of their brands. Um, but I've made a lot of really good friends in the bourbon bubble, and bourbon, we call it whiskey tube instead of YouTube. Whiskey tube is sort of slowing down a lot. Some of the distilleries, there was a big bourbon boom. I mean, we got magazines, Whiskey Advocate, there's Bourbon Plus. I mean, there's whole magazines dedicated to the art of whiskey and of bourbon. But the bourbon bubble, you probably have heard more about it than even me. There's I want to say Green River in Kentucky is in trouble. Uncle Nearest is shutting down.
Yeah,
There's just the distilleries have sort of like during the bourbon boom, they exploded. The whole tourism of Kentucky is based around horses and bourbon. And there's a
it is.
whole thing called the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky.
Yep.
And people plan their entire vacations going from distillery to distillery in Kentucky. And
Mm,
Kentucky is one of the most beautiful states you could ever visit. But
yes.
sadly, the bourbon industry is seeing a downturn right now. I just think it was just too big to keep up at that pace, and we had content creators just coming out of the woodwork like crazy. And there's a lot of them, they're just gone now, including myself. I mean, we're just all gone. Just couldn't it just it And not only that, it's an expensive hobby. I mean, we're talking about, like, we all complain maybe about paying $70 for like a DAC painting, right? I mean, there's bottles of bourbon like on the secondary market, they're $3,000. An average decent bottle of bourbon, I would say, is Brett, if he was in here, he could say, because he works at the liquor store, 69.95 to like 99.95. I mean, you're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in investments in whiskey that people have in their homes.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
That
it's a huge thing. I mean, you talk about some of these people that have 200 diamond paintings in their stash. but up the prices of those things, like double, triple them, and add maybe another 500 onto that, and then you can tell me what people have spent on bourbon. It's insanity.
Head around that. I cannot wrap my head around that. But I know the truth because I know some people around here that have distilleries and they do stuff like that. And it's making money to spend, but it's also making money to make too. So
Well,
it's
Kentucky is very dependent on their horse industry and their bourbon industry. And
yep.
I mean, and you're very protective of it too. I mean, Kentucky is the home of bourbon, and it is an American product, and I mean, we should be very proud of the landscape that bourbon has in the world. The one thing I wish I could have access to is your Ale 8.
Yeah.
Your Ale 8 soda. I love Ale 8 soda.
It's hard to get. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it's very hard to get, and it is
Hard.
delicious. When I go to Kentucky, I drink an Ale 8, and I always bring a couple packs of Ale 8 back with me.
My mother loved it. It's not my favorite, but yeah, you wouldn't be surprised the people I went to school with that lived away from here, and they're like, "Could you send me some milk?" And I'm like, "You want me to what?" And they're like, "Come on, please, we can't get it here." And I'm like,
I'm
"No."
one of them. Send me Ale 8. I mean, it's like Tammy, wouldn't you agree? It's kind of like a cross between ginger ale, Sprite, and it's like a
Yeah,
cross between ginger ale and Sprite. You can't even explain what it tastes like
it's
exactly.
very odd taste. It's
But
very odd.
I think it's really good though.
It's not like that. I'm very picky though. My mom loves it. She loves it. It's not even something I can explain what it tastes like. That's a good way to explain it though.
Yeah, it's like ginger ale and Sprite mixed together. I mean, it's like here we have Whataburger, and there's Whataburger in Texas. And at our Whataburgers that are only in this very little general area around, just local, they make a drink called a Witch Doctor. And what it is, it's every fountain soda they have, and pickle juice, and a plop of sliced dill pickles. And I know, don't make faces. Listen, I've taken my father and his friend and taken him to Whataburger, and I'm like, I'm ordering you Witch Doctors. Do not look in, just drink it. Drink it. Trust me.
You should have
Everybody loves them. They love them. There's something about a Witch Doctor. They're delicious. And it's the
you'll have
pickle. You got
ever
to
want
have the
me to
pickle.
try it, you'll have to trick me and put it in something and say it's a whatever because there's no way on that
No,
description.
people wouldn't try them if they knew it was in them, but when you
Yeah,
try it, just, I mean, you hear about people drinking pickle juice or whatever. I mean,
yeah, I
it's
think
the pickle juice just adds something to the soda, so it's like probably a mix of like Coke or Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Sprite, who knows what's all in it. It's just whoever's pouring it, you might not get the same Witch Doctor twice. It depends what Whataburger you're at, who's behind the fountain pouring it, because they just literally go and it just all goes in the cup.
I've heard of that drink because of my cousin. She loves it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not trying that. And she's like, come on, you're missing out. You have to. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
But
it's good. It's definitely good. It's one of my favorite like soft drinks. Is definitely Ale 8 or a Witch Doctor or a Mexican Coke, and it's got to be a Mexican Coke because it's got the cane sugar in it instead of the high fructose corn syrup, and it tastes so much better. But it sounds like the real Coke with the cane sugar that you can buy in the grocery aisle with the Mexican food. Actually, Coke's going to start making all their Coke again with sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup. So then that'll be awesome.
Oh, that would be not so Disney anymore. That would be awesome. That'd be better, I think. I think that'd be better. That yeah, even want to know is LA a soda, and yeah, it
Yep.
is. It's a type of soda. It is, and it's very popular here. I mean, my mother loves it, and we had little restaurants here that had a little booth in it, and it just sort of LA there. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is very
It's
popular.
definitely a Kentucky thing. Ale
It is
8.
happy time. Yep, it is. You know, I love it here. We had some very odd things here that we also like. You said it's a beautiful state here. And hi, Lily. Thank you for coming. Unfortunately, we are at the end, but I do suggest that you go back and watch it because it was a very,
I
very
really hope I didn't bore you guys. I mean, honestly, I know I got a little harsh on the copyright thing, but it was something that, that had, I just want to warn everybody out there about the copyright thing that is a real thing and it can have real consequences.
right.
If you question it at all, my advice is to back away.
That's it is that. My mother always said, always listen to your instinct. So
Yeah,
very
exactly.
That's very good at that. And I will try to do that. Hi, Dominic Pastor. Thank you for being here. The Christian I have, you have not bored me in the least. I told you I was waiting to this interview, and I was excited. Thank you for being here and being honest and opening up about your life.
Yeah.
I'm sure we just touched the surface, but you've lived a wonderful life. I mean, yeah, like we said, you went through the bad to get to where you are now. But I mean, I'm not gonna say it was worth it. It's not worth it. That's never worth it. Then I'm saying you came out on the other side and look at
Yeah.
you now. I mean, and the people you met, it's just that I wanna be you when I grow up, let's just say. I just think that you are very diverse in a lot of things, and you should teach us a lot, I think. I mean,
If anybody ever wants to talk to me if they're having a domestic violence type issue and they're afraid to talk to anybody, contact me. I will talk to you. I will do whatever I can to help you. But there are, going back to the very beginning of this, there are ways out. It is not the end of your life to leave an abuser. Don't stay. I'm lucky I got out alive. I'm lucky I got out with just my face being broke.
yeah, you are so lucky, and so let's just say that my 2 cousins, I don't know how they're here. I
Yeah.
really that's a grace of God. I mean, it's what I say, but it was very difficult. But Kristen, before I go, I will want to remind everybody that I am co-hosting an event that is called the Witch event, and the woman I'm on to that down our Emporium's website and their Witch website Facebook page. I'd really appreciate that. And the witch event is all about Kristen's witches that she had. She has a series of witches, they're called the witches, and I love them. I got one on the way. Had a harder time teaching, by the way. But until I saw the one, and that just. And now you have one with the mud, coffee mud, and everyone that knows me knows that I have a thing for teacups and mud. So yeah, that's in my heart. But it runs from September the 1st to October 31st. There are 3 of us that the co-host myself, Rich, Stitch in the Diamond, and Alicia Maria Designs. It's a channel that Alicia Maria is her name. She's the other co-host. And Kristen, if I'm leaving anything out, let me know. Uh, and I'm
No,
leaving
you still got time though. I think if you order tonight or tomorrow, I think you'll still get your canvas in time for the events. Ren is going to be extremely, he texted me, I want to say it was last night or the night before, that he is going to be fairly absent. So please, if you have questions about the event, contact Tammy, Rich, Elisa, or myself right
Mhm.
now. Ren is going to be covered up in your canvases and getting them out to you. I know
Yeah.
there's been some questions. I know that there was a question that actually came through, not on the feed, but I had an alert on my phone. Somebody was asking something about the event. So just make sure that you go on the Which Diamond Painting event page on Facebook, click on the featured tab, and I think there's three separate Google Docs. One is your entry form, one is a calendar, and one might be the rules or the description or something like that. Tammy, you might be able to explain that better.
Yeah.
But all the information is there. Ren got some of it is a little long-winded, but that Google, and I think Tammy's posted, I've posted, Rich has posted it. The Google form is listed in the chat message section of that Facebook page several times. Carissa has a live link up for event merch. Firefly has a live link up for event merch. Wendy K has a live link up for event merch. I'm missing somebody. Who am I missing?
Um.
Oh my goodness. I ordered from you. Oh, a Bee's Crafty Corner.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bee's Crafty Corner has all 23 witches as
Right.
release papers that you can buy the individual, or you can ask for a mixed pack, as well as, I'm going to say, Playing with Fire, Mermaid Princess, Mermaid Moon. And I did upload because there was a request. The Vampires and My Precious Pets is going to be coming out in release paper. Those are all event branded merch. Firefly is giving a discount code, but not for the event tray, just to be used within their store. Um, I'm not remembering what Carissa's discount is, if there is any. Wendy, I don't think there is. Those trinket trays are amazing and they're only $12, people. So you don't need a discount for those. The quality of those trinket trays is amazing. And Carissa's has got a little wink wink nod nod on the gravestone, which I absolutely love. I did order her
That was
crocheted cauldron pen holder. It's so cool. And it's not under our event merch, it's just under pen holders, but you guys got to go look at it. It's literally a cauldron with like bubbling slime with slots to put your pens in. It's extremely cool.
I
Tammy,
love
did I leave anybody out? We did get Simply Gilded.
Gilded. Yes.
Yeah,
30% discount there.
that's
They're having,
right.
and if you use, oh God, what did you put in the comments? You got to
Oh,
put
I can't even remember.
it
But
on
guys, we've got some
the wall.
sponsors, and if you want to recommend any other sponsors, run them across Rich, Tammy, or Elisa.
Yes.
Um, and we have a spreadsheet going where we can still add sponsors up until the event, even probably after the start of the event. I really would like a good tweezer sponsor to do a branded tweezer. So if any of you have any favorite tweezer people, maybe, and they want to get involved, I think that would be a good one. Tammy, I think we've got some pen turners, which we are going to have some branded pens too that are pre-turned. Um, what else do we need, Tammy? I'm not really certain.
Other than the tweezers, I think the got pretty much everything that we need now. Like I said, we had a lot of sponsors, with a lot of discount codes. And I know that down the design company, you had the 10% discount code. Old Snap Cracker Cafe will have a discount code. Um, Lot that would posted it. You'll have to go on there to see because it's just so much. I can't remember it all. I mean, not right off the top of my head. It's gonna be a fun event, I think, and it's gonna be on all three of our channels. So we'll each take turns giving away prizes. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I really
Oh,
do.
I think this event is going to be now, guys. Gail, by the way, are there new releases tomorrow? No, it's going to really be probably the last day to order before from Diamond Art Emporium. Now, of course, that's another thing we need to mention, Tammy, is that it doesn't have to be a witch. It just has to be anything Halloween, and it
Mm,
doesn't need to be from Diamond Art Emporium. The only thing is if you do use a Art Emporium canvas, your prizes are going to be doubled.
yeah,
Okay. But you can do any company's canvases. We are welcoming to everybody. And
yeah.
I'll tell you guys, if this event goes off, so far it's been pretty smooth. If this event goes off well, I would say in 6 months, I already have an idea cooking for a new event that I think would be really exciting and be so wide open that like almost any canvas would work for it. Um, I've
Titus
talked to
is
Ren a little bit about it. He wasn't really understanding because he was thinking. I won't even get into it. We got to get through this event first. But hopefully,
yeah.
the whole team can stay together and we get through this event and everybody has a blast. And then we can start talking about Which 2026 and possibly another event, maybe 6 months from now. Um, but I would like to get to a retreat. I know that I think Brittany and Robin were talking about doing a retreat at Great Wolf Lodge in Charlotte,
Mhm.
and I hope they do. Um, because there's been some small retreats where there's only like 12 people, and I get the intimate thing and really, getting living in a house with 12 strangers for 5 days or 4 days. It could be fun, and then again, it might not be fun. So I kind of want to do one of the bigger events where you can like mingle amongst many crowds of people like you did at the
Right.
Great Lakes one. I mean, that's kind of what I want my first diamond painting retreat to be, is more of a
Yeah.
bigger event. Yeah.
Was amazing. And I did want to mention with the lift switch, n- it has to be not very gory, bloody Halloween. We like the cutesy Halloween, if I'm not mistaken. And what sets it apart from drills and chills, and you can double dip that way, but it's not fall. It's strictly Halloween. It's
Right.
not,
And
so
I did put people though, bring on the gore and the horror. It's perfectly fine because drills
okay.
and chills. Yeah, drills and chills you can't. So like I was talking to like Mushies people, they like to do the horror stuff. That's fine.
Yeah. What
It's
that is
fine.
Halloween. But this was early on when we were talking, we were just kind of hatching out, going back and forth, what's acceptable, what's not. Okay, so that is acceptable. Okay. I
Yeah.
thought it should be, but, you know, I, it, I didn't know. But it is
Yeah,
Halloween.
dark art canvases are definitely welcome. I mean, I know that like even some of the Enz Guerrero canvases, like the High Priestess, you know, people were questioning if that was gonna be okay for drills and chills. It's fine for our event. We're very
Yeah.
welcoming. It's wide open. Yeah, but you're right. It's not fall. It's Halloween. Has to be somehow say Halloween. Could be a skeleton, vampire,
Yeah.
zombie, Frankenstein and his bride, whatever. Could be
Yeah,
anything.
but it can't be like a big fall scenery type thing because that
Yeah, I would say no, like a jack o' lantern, yes, but a pile of pumpkins,
I wasn't trained
maybe.
on a something farm or a scarecrow in a something type. Not really, unless the girl got dressed as a witch or something, maybe, I don't know. But
I don't
yeah.
know. I mean, it depends if the scarecrow looks scary. The
Yeah.
scarecrow might be okay. I mean, I think just everybody use your head when picking. It's a Halloween event. If it says Halloween to you, it'll probably say Halloween to everybody else, you know?
Just yeah, that's what pretty much Katie and Lindsay said. Look at your team. That if someone said, if you ask someone, does this look like it's Halloween the fall, and they said yes, then it will probably work. And it's the same here. And no new start and no finish. And is it a 30 to 30 or a 40 to 40 finish? I'm doing
I
40
think
here.
it's a 40 by 40.
40 to 40. I'm co-hosting 4 events at the same time, Dad. So all of these numbers are running
I
together
know.
like a spreadsheet that I have to look at that I'm not looking at right now, by the way.
And
So
Helen asked, she said she doesn't think her canvas will work because it's Dax Autumn Fire 2. I'm
that's it.
not really sure what Autumn Fire 2 is, but if it says Halloween to you, it'll probably work.
If I'm not mistaken, is that
Doesn't
the
have to be a witch, Helen. It definitely doesn't have to be a witch.
no, it does not. So anything Halloween, just and if you're not sure, send me the picture, Kristen or Rich or Elisa, and we can help you out. We'll let you know. But
Yeah.
thank you, Kristen, for being here.
Thank you. I hope I didn't bore you all to tears.
You did me. No, that's for sure. And I don't think you did because I haven't lost any of yours. So, well, In
All
fact,
right.
not a few more since we started.
All
So,
right,
thank
guys.
you.
Well, I guess we'll see you all week 1 of
Yep.
Witch 2025, and let's make this a really successful event. And I hope all of you win prizes. Just everybody participate, support our sponsors. We got lots of great merch and lots of great hosts. So show them the love. And I think when we get closer to time, probably Tammy, we probably need to say, who's doing week 1, who's doing week 2. I'm sure that'll so people
Yeah.
don't get confused as to whose channel they need to be on. But once September 1st rolls around, Tammy, Rich, and Elisa are manning the ship. So I'm here for support on the Facebook page, but they're going to be running the show, and they're going to be giving out the prizes. And Ren's just running around with his hair on fire right now, getting all your canvases packed up.
Then it's cracking me up. I'm trying to like look Linda's thing, and if I have a question, I'm just like going either way to win because he's not available. He truly is not available right now.
He's
So just
I don't know. He said to me the other night. He says, "I'm Kristen. I'm only one person," and I do really kind of feel bad for him.
yeah,
He'll get through it. I mean, the man is super organized. I know that he's going to get it done. He's going to get through it. And if anything, you guys, you are making this man so happy by ordering the
yeah.
canvases. He is just loving
Every time
everybody.
that bill goes off, when that bill goes off, he thought the kid at Christmas because he wants you to be happy. He wants you to enjoy your attendance, and he will do anything he can to make sure that you do enjoy your attendance. He really
Yep.
does. He loves the shop. He loves this community. So, and he did all he can right now to make sure you get your attendance in time. So, but yeah, Jeanette said you absolutely did not worth your tears. Thank you for sharing your story. I think you're an amazing woman, and I second that. And I'm sure a lot of us did too.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
I'm gonna leave you like I always do and tell you to always love yourself, to love others, let others love you. And just remember, no matter what you're going through, you can get through anything, because what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It really does.
Absolutely.
I say I'm living proof. I'm truly living proof in Sir Kristen. So thank you guys for being here and supporting her and supporting me. And I really hope to see you all in the event. I hope I see all of your names come out of winners. And again, if you need anything, let us know. And once we get the schedule out, I will post it on my social, so will Rick, so will Alicia Maria. So, and it'll be in the Facebook group and on my page, and I'm sure Rich will put it on his page. So it'll be all over the place. So that good night, guys. I hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead. Christian, I hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead.
Thank
And if
you.
you guys need anything, I'm always here. And on that note, I will leave you like I always do. Have a great weekend, and I will see you in my next live and my next video. Bye, guys.
Bye.